Don't be shy. Step into the light.
Hey guys, the Black Critic Guy here in the beautiful island of Guam, here to give you guys a review of The Hobbit, The Desolation of Smaug. Or is it Smaug? Either one. You get my point. So The Hobbit, The Desolation of Smaug continues the story of the dwarves led by Thorin Oakenshield as they head to the Lonely Mountain to defeat Smaug and take back their land, along with Gandalf and Bilbo. By the way, if you hear sirens in the background, don't mind that. It's always noisy here in Guam. And along the way, they meet some interesting people and fight some deadly orcs. And they learn about a dark power that is manifesting itself once again. Now, I wasn't the biggest fan of the first Hobbit. I enjoyed it for what it was, but I felt like it was way too long. They could have took out a lot of other things, yet I did like most of the acting. The characters were very interesting for the most part, and the action scenes were done very well. And everything I felt about that movie can be transferred into this movie, except I feel like this movie has a lot more missteps, and that really makes me sad. But first, let's talk about some of the good. The acting is still solid by every person in the cast, and we got some new people joining us again and some familiar faces, like Orlando Bloom is back as Legolas. That was always a pleasure to see, although I'm gonna get to Legolas later on in this review and explain some things I did not like, but still, it was really good to see him again. Evangeline Lilly is in the movie playing a she-elf, and she was pretty badass, although she kind of reminds me of the female version of Link, especially with the entire getup. I'm like, ah, it's Link. Martin Freeman still kills it as Bilbo, Ian McKellen still kills it as Gandalf, and I don't know the guy who plays Thorin Oakenshield. What I'll do is I'll look his name up and put it right here, but that guy is really good. Like, he really sells that staunch, angry dwarf who just wants his land back, and he'll stop at nothing to get it. There are a lot of cool action sequences, like there's this one where all the dwarves and Bilbo are in this raging river and they're just flowing down as the orcs are trying to attack them. That was pretty cool. And sometimes some of the throwdowns with the elves, awesome. But honestly, the thing that sells it the most, one of the best action scenes and some of the best scenes in this movie, belong to our Desolator, Smaug. I mean, Smaug is one of the most terrifying and menacing characters I've ever seen in a Lord of the Rings film. I mean, the minute you see this guy, you want to shit your pants. I mean, this guy is enormous, and he's so menacing with his red eyes as they gaze upon you, and the way he talks is very smooth, but also terrifying at the same time. Benedict Cumberbatch did a really good job as Smaug. He was just as memorable as I hoped he was gonna be, because he was the high point of the movie. Again, high point because he's a dragon, he can fly. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. But as much as the acting, the visuals, and the action scenes were superb, this film really lacks on its story, its focus, and its pace. I mean, seriously, the story is all over the place. It lacks focus. I mean, is the story about the dwarves going to take back their home from this dragon? Or is this the story about this rising evil that is unspoken, yet is coming back? It really doesn't know what it wants to be, and it flips back and forth between the two that you really get confused as to which one is our main story and which one is the side story. And probably the biggest problem that I have with these Hobbit movies is that they are so under the shadow of Lord of the Rings that they now fail to be their own movies and are just now part of the Lord of the Rings. They are no longer their solo story. And I know for some people that might not be a problem, but for me that's a problem because The Hobbit is its own story. Yes, they have elements that are from the Lord of the Rings, but it's still its standalone story about these dwarves that go to the Lonely Mountain to fight Smaug, the dragon, to take back their land. But now it just feels like that story is like the B story, and the story about Sauron rising back from the ashes is the main story of The Hobbit, and that should not be the case. The film and the franchise as a whole has lost its identity. It's no longer The Hobbit. Now it's just Lord of the Rings, the early years. I mean, seriously, think about it. It really is just Lord of the Rings, the early years. Some scenes in this movie were needlessly long, while other scenes that I felt like were more important and crucial to the plot were needlessly short. An example of this is that there's this one character by the name of Bard, who's a very interesting character and I really liked him a lot, but the thing is they don't really flesh out his backstory. I mean, they do highlight one key element, that something in his past kind of tainted his name and that's why no one really respects him or anything, but I would have loved to know more about his character. He was interesting. But nope, we get a whole 15-minute scene of the dwarves going down the river as the orcs chase them. Yes, it was a cool scene, but it really detracted from the movie because it felt like the movie focused more on the action than it did on the story and developing its characters. I still know nothing about the majority of the dwarves in this movie. I mean, some of them do get more screen time, like I know Killy gets more screen time, and speaking of Killy and his screen time, there's this really pointless love story between Killy and She-Link that was put into the movie for no real reason, and honestly could have been taken out at any time. Anytime. I felt like they were just trying to make a love story very reminiscent to the one in Lord of the Rings between Aragorn and that one chick whose name I kind of forgot. I don't know what her name is, but it was very reminiscent to that love story, and I didn't like it. It was more of a love triangle than it was a love story because Legolas also liked She-Link, and it was just like, Legolas, you don't need to fall in love with this girl, you're a badass already. And speaking of Legolas, for some reason in this movie, he really felt unlikable. Like, he kind of just came off as a pompous asshole, whereas in the other films, you know, as much as he did feel like he was better than the dwarves, he still had some likability to him. In this movie, he's kind of hollow. He just felt like a shell of his former self, which is ironic because this is the film that happens before the Lord of the Rings. I guess what they're gonna do is they're gonna show us how he became the person he is in the Lord of the Rings, but honestly, Legolas's contribution in this movie easily could have been taken out. The love story could have been easily taken out, and the ending. What the? There is only a few things in this world that you should never do when ending your film. One of them being ending on a goddamn cliffhanger. You don't do that. The movie literally ends at the climax before the falling action could even happen. And I know a lot of you might say, well, I mean, it's to entice the audience to see the next film. But if you think about it, every other film in this franchise ended at a point to where the action did calm down and it would gracefully lead into the next movie. Here, it ends so abruptly that now we have to wait a whole year to see the resolution of all of these stories. It's not just the last story. There are many stories that are left unresolved, unfulfilled, and it leaves the audience kind of unsatisfied after sitting for 2 hours and 40 minutes. It's like waiting to hear the punchline of a joke that you've been listening to for 15 to 20 minutes, and then the guy's like, okay, tune in next week and I'll tell you the punchline of the joke. No! We sat here for this long. You at least give us a satisfying conclusion to this part of the story. I know it's an ongoing story, but they could have reached a point to where everything is now calmed down and we can lead into the next one. They didn't do that here. But overall, guys, as much as I really enjoyed the action scenes and the visual effects are amazing, and the acting is solid across the board, it doesn't change the fact that this movie is sorely lacking in many areas, including its story, the pacing, and the ending just leaves you angry. Like, physically angry at where it ended and how you felt like you wasted your time not to get some resolution by the end of the film. If I could describe this film in 2 words, it's wasted potential. There were so many elements that they could have handled a little better in this film, but it was just wasted. And that's why I'm gonna give this film, sadly, a 3 out of 5 stars. It's okay. But anyway, what did you guys think of The Hobbit, The Desolation of Smaug? Did you really like it? Or did you find it dull and way too long and you couldn't stand it? And let me know, who is your favorite Hobbit character? Not Lord of the Rings, Hobbit character. Comment below. Let me know. Also, starting today is the 12 days of anime. Stay tuned for that. I'll have some vlogs coming your way, and I hope to have an anime review coming real soon. Tell me what you think of the background. Do you like it? Do you hate it? Do you miss like an inside background? Too much background noise? Just let me know. Anyway, hit that subscribe button if you're new to my channel. Welcome to the Black Critic Guy. Like this video if you really enjoyed it, and I'm Tony Wally II, signing off here on Guam as the Black Critic Guy. Till then, peace, YouTube.